to Upstage Downstage with him, Richard Platt, seated in the upper circle.
And him, Stephen Rees, typically seated in the cheap seat.
This is the Theatre Podcast, where we discuss productions we've seen,
Things we've liked,
and may not have liked,
giving our complete unprofessional
and non-biased opinions.
So grab a brew,
Take a seat,
and let's raise that curtain.
On today's episode, we'll be discussing Wicked. We saw this production at Alhambra Theatre, Bradford, on the 20th of April 2024. Wicked is a musical, with music and lyrics by Stephen Schwartz and a book by Winnie Holzman, inspired by Gregory Maguire's novel Wicked, The Life and Times of the Wicked Witch of the West, which is in turn based on L. Frank Baum's 1900s novel The Wonderful Wizard of Oz, and its 1939 Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer film adaptation. So Richard, what's it all about?
Wicked tells the story of two unlikely friends, Elphaba and Galinda, later known as the Wicked Witch of the West and Glinda the Good Witch. We follow their friendship until a shared love interest comes between them. Throw in the wonderful wizard's corrupt government, a farm girl's house landing on Elphaba's sister, and a revelation of how she became so green we ultimately witness her fall from grace.
But first, our post-show opinion!
Wicked was wicked.
I'd rather be wicked and stay than click my heels 3 times.
So with all that said, let's...
Set the scene!
Well, are we recording?
Oh yeah, I've been recording for years.
Oh, okay.
It was
Okay.
Oh, go on then.
Come on, man. No, you
It
start.
was a typical panto-esque feeling of the stage. Because
Yeah.
It was very like...
Very
glitzy,
Wizard of Oz.
Yes, very that. Just to get you in the mood. But it started with the curtains down with a map of Oz, didn't it?
Yes.
And then I'm just asking you just to confirm, because I was actually sat. Where was I? The Alhambra Theatre, right at the very top.
You were, yes.
I was practically glued to the ceiling, right at the very back.
And I'm just going to make comment that I was actually sat with a severely restricted view. I could see about a third of the stage. However, I have seen it 5 times in London.
Yeah.
So this is Stephen's first time. So
I
sacrificed my seat.
I was
Stephen.
a wicked virgin. I was.
It was
until that very day, where we saw it. And this is how high my seating was. Even the spotlights on either side, they had to be like chained in so they didn't fall off.
Stephen had to rub some sun cream into his forehead because it was burning him from above.
I tell you what, it was scary. It was scary being up there, because if you have to walk past other people, if they're stood up on their seats, you've only got like a foot of room, and there's no railings or anything to hold on to.
No, not at all.
If you're going to fall down, you're literally going down.
Yeah, exactly.
To Oz. Now, so the curtain lifted and the staging was quite bright and colourful.
It was what you were actually presented with is the workings of a clock and the cogs and actually a clock face at the start.
Yes, that's right. And there was also an impeding dragon.
Yes, the
straight out on the top.
Yeah, the clockwork dragon at the top. So basically,
Which I don't remember there being a dragon in Wizard of Oz.
No, but it's actually mentioned in the books.
Oh,
the
Wicked books.
Yeah, in Frank L. Baum's books, the dragon's in there. The time dragon's actually part of the. Not necessarily the Wizard of Oz story, but the story of Oz, basically.
Oh, okay.
So that's where that came from. So that's just.
Well, I'd rather them have the Wheelers.
This
or
isn't
TikTok.
Return to Oz.
But that's part of the book.
This is before that.
That's the next book, isn't it?
Yeah, this is after. This is before, not after. Well, it's before and during, isn't it?
Well, yes. So the set did come across as a bit of a panto-esque vibe.
Yeah, and it sort of links as well to Wizard of Oz, where that was done on a sound stage, where it was very much a musical film that was done in the same sort of way as a panto. It's very, the scenes are all at the back, are all painted in the same sort of way, and
Is that it?
Yeah, I mean, and I suppose the other thing is the scene, all the cogs and everything move, all the things around the stage move, and and it was actually quite interesting because it's the first time I've seen the touring production.
Okay.
So I will make reference to some of the differences between the production that I've seen in London multiple times, so the actual original set to what the actual tour is, because there's certain things that have been changed in the tour that happen differently on stage. So, so like for example, at the front of the stage, which you saw big clockwork wheels and things up the side of the stage. What actually happens in the London version is there's two big towers with that have almost been overgrown and built into the side of the stage, both sides, where some of the cast and the characters enter from. That doesn't happen in the tour. So
is that in one of the scenes? I think it was the second act. They did bring one sort of a platform tower-esque thing right at
from
the back.
The back. Was that would have happened at the front of stage above the audience, above the cast. So they would have been towering above the actual scene. So that was one of the changes they made. Obviously, it must have been because of the tour can't fit those towers in or build them, but it just created different elements that, you know, a little bit like the trapdoor Elphaba climbed out of. That was a fake trapdoor in the tour, when actually she climbs out of the front of stage in the London production.
Okay.
So whereas that was just a screen with a fake trapdoor that she climbed out of.
So we begin with a bit of a backstory, don't we, of how Elphaba became queen. So
not queen.
Green. Sorry, it's just because you were throwing in words there, and I wasn't even going to say that. So we start off with how she became green, but we start off with Elphaba and her sister.
Yeah.
And she's having to look after these slippers. They don't refer to them as ruby slippers, do they? They're just slippers at this point.
And that's because they're not technically ruby.
No, because that's Warner Bros., isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. So that was her mission, to look after the slippers, and she was a bit dismayed because they weren't for her. Yeah. And then we also see how the bit before that, or around that time, where her mother's actually having an affair with this the wizard, and
touring salesman, as it were.
Touring salesman, yeah. And then she ends up giving birth to this green baby, and so that's the backstory of it. And then we follow them off to when they go to this, I suppose. Was it a girls' school? Majority of them were girls.
It's just
a school in Oz.
They
go to school. Elphaba befriends the professor, who's a rat or a creature or a goat. No, it was a goat. That's
his teacher, Dr. Dillamond. That's her teacher, Dr. Dillamond.
Yeah, well, that's who.
Befriends the goat. It's a
teacher. That's what I just said. She befriends him.
Yeah, I'm just saying who he is, because she said befriends a goat, as in
I see what you're saying.
Yeah, it's the teacher of the class.
Yeah. So she befriends the goat. The professor.
I think it is to show that because she's different, she's the only person that she sort of befriends is somebody who sees past that colour and just... And
also, so he's different to everyone else just as she is. Yeah. But also it's setting the seeds for her wanting to later on rescue all the monkeys and the animals in the kingdom that are being chained up, locked up.
Because they're becoming a threat to society, really.
Yeah. So we're building up her character there. And then we sort of... from that moment on, when they enter the whole school situation, for me it felt like, again, like Ursula the Sea Witch, we're going down the whole easy A, what the other films in the 80s, Heathers.
Yeah.
It's going...
I think it's interesting because it's like, school. For me, I know that Ursula and sort of Unfortunate took reference from Wicked. So it's
really?
Well, because it was written after.
Well, I know,
Unfortunate was written after. Wicked's been established for a long time.
20 years.
So somebody's took, for me it's the other way around, as in I know the difference with the 80s films, but the like Unfortunate's definitely
Well,
taken reference. I know you're not.
Yeah, I'm not
just
saying that Wicked took reference from Ursula, that one. I'm just saying like they're similar because it's the same kind of story situation.
They are, yeah.
It is that whole situation of how did this person become so horrible, and you find out they've twisted it, and it all starts from pretty much high school.
Yeah.
When they were being bullied and stuff. So that's where it's less about Wizard of Oz and more about the characters of Alphaba, which, this is what this show is about. They're being wicked.
And similarly with Glinda and her evolution from
although
she's not always been perceived,
No, but they make her out to be this dumb blonde as well, which is slightly like a horrible sort of...
they're doing the don't. I think as well they sort of make her... They show that she's actually had to conform and be that person to be popular when actually there's more to her than people perceive. They don't. They show that more as it progresses through the production sometimes.
Oh, well, for me it just came across as if they've made her dumb, so it enhances Alphaba to be the victim.
Yeah,
it's just got that tiny hint of the victim thing about it, but trying to tell a story.
Yeah, but I think what it progresses to in the second half is that she's having to be that figurehead in controlling the country, where she's actually saying things she doesn't want to say, but she's having to use it as a tool to get higher up to control things. I think that she turns it into a tool, quite a powerful tool, I think, in the second half.
But also they use the love interest as a weapon to turn
them against each other.
Yeah, so Alphaba goes from has more to do with the character, the male character.
Fiero. No.
Who?
Fiero.
So because Alphaba's got more to do with Fiero, I don't even know what I'm talking about. You know it more than me.
I know where you're going. I think it's the Fiero's the pull between the two to actually... He comes in almost as a dumb blonde as well, because he's drifted through life where he doesn't actually... He doesn't have to pick somebody. He can pick who he likes to go out with. If he likes the look of somebody, he can just get them. And I think where Elphaba's concerned, Elphaba's the curveball for him, where he actually sees something in her that he didn't know himself. I think that's
more like the vulnerable intelligence that he sees.
But it's almost that he actually realises that's what he wants, rather than he's just expects it to just fall in his lap. That was the real challenge, that actually she's the person that he needs to be with.
Which let me just throw in Hairspray for a minute.
Yeah,
it's very much Link, instead of going with that blonde one, he fancies Tracy Turnblad.
Exactly.
And Tracy's the one that's a bit like Alphaba.
But the personality outwins the
the looks as well.
Yeah, exactly that.
So we've got that situation merged in with the whole high school Heathers element going on there. So for me, that's the plot of Wicked in the first act.
Yeah, it is. It's
into the second.
Yeah, it's creating that. It's creating that world of. I suppose the first act is really the coming of age of both.
Yeah.
The iconic people you see as two very specific people in the Wizard of Oz film, where their character doesn't really change throughout that process in Wizard of Oz.
Yeah.
Glinda's Glinda, and the Wicked Witch of the West is the Wicked Witch of the West. Whereas what you're actually seeing is how they became those people. And I think what it's nice is when you watch Wizard of Oz again, you go, actually, they do like each other. They just know that you need a good and evil in the world,
of course,
to actually survive and coexist. It's just they never do enough to upset the balance too much. And it's like, and I think it's really interesting to see that dynamic sort of shown of almost the flip side of the actual product, the film sort of thing.
So now we've discussed as to what the premise of the actual plot line and storylines is. Let's talk about the writing now and move on or expand upon that. I think for me it got more exciting from Act 2.
Yeah.
Simply because it started referencing the actual Wizard of Oz. We were
Yeah.
getting there. We were
We
getting
were in
to
that
what we
timeline.
wanted now.
We were in the timeline.
Yeah.
weren't
And so I think it began where Glinda were waving off Dorothy on the Yellow Brick Road, because the Yellow Brick Roads came out and some of the flowers. And then she just turns to the audience and said, "Oh, I'm really bad at giving directions. I hope they get there." And I thought that was wonderful
exactly, brilliant.
because it just made you get the high.
You start
get the
realising
joke.
exactly where it is in the film.
Yeah,
You're
you
like,
just know now.
Yeah.
And I think that's sort of
And,
why.
and also as well for me, the aesthetics are so matched. The scenery and setting matches what you see in the film.
With the whole Yellow Brick
same,
Road and stuff. But they just bring it off so it's just enough so you can see it.
It's just there and everything. And I think that those are the moments where you just think they've really worked hard on linking this. You know?
Yeah. And another part a bit later on when they do start linking it was when I think Dorothy at this point in the film is being locked up by Elphaba.
Yeah.
And then she talks into this like the locker or whatever.
The grate in the floor.
Yeah. And she's going on about that pesky dog.
Yeah, and I'll get your little dog too.
Dodo or whatever it's called or something like that.
Yeah.
And there's certain elements like that. Or when they're referencing, this little farm girl's just come in and I think she knows this, that and the other or whatever. So it's it started picking up and being more fun once you got the in-jokes and you got the references. And I think also you started realising Elphaba's urge to get those slippers, why she wanted those slippers, because her sister that she had to look after those slippers had died because of this farm girl's house landing on her.
Fell on her sister.
So now we're seeing the other side of that.
Yeah, exactly.
Of her seeking either revenge or just her going through the mourning period of just losing her sister that she had to look after because she was disabled.
Yeah. And also then growing up and doing what she can for her sister, and and also saving the animals and doing all the extra things, that trying to save those unwanted and the ones that are being pushed out, and you saw the whole change in that, because as much as you saw her in the film as this really horrible person, she was horrible against the man almost. She was horrible against. She was a wicked witch because they were treating other people badly and those unwanted badly, and it's great. It's really, as I say, when you watch the two in tandem, you realise how cleverly written. For me, the second half is the bit that I actually like because of the twists and turns in it, because it starts going into a little bit more depth and a different world that actually but runs parallel with the film. And it's like, this is where the clever writing comes, where it's like, because like you say, anybody can write the start bit where it's all about the lives and the build up. But in a way, I thought it's a really nice way to do that build up to the first half. But then now we've come of age and now we can make a difference in the second half. It's about that whole legacy that we can create and leave
and
behind,
add on to and seeing the other side of it, which we actually wanted to see in the first place.
And it's that thing that I touched on as well, where you saw Fiyero become the Scarecrow. That whole element of before that, where Glinda's doing a speech very much like Evita, because they just set it up like Evita, where she stood there with the up hairdo and everything, and she's speaking to to everybody in Oz and
all the Munchkins.
It was all that it was in all the Munchkins and in the land of Oz and everything. It's like she stood there delivering this speech, and she's treating Fiyero like an almost lapdog, and actually all he wants to do is get away. Even though they've announced their engagement, he just wants to flee. And it's that stiff upper lip that they created to show that she's still doing it with a smile on her face and she's happy, but actually underneath, her world's crumbling.
But also, it's sort of mirrored in the fact that Nessa Rose is thankful that one of the Munchkins, was it Bok?
Bok,
was it Bok? Was like hanging around her, who ended up, was it being the Tin Man?
Yeah.
but there was a bit of a relationship there where he wasn't interested, but he was like forced to be with her just because
Glinda pushed Bob to her just to
look after her in the wheelchair, just to separate people about. So there was an unfortunate love interest there, but then in the second act, you're building up so he becomes the Scarecrow, he becomes the Tin Man,
and the little pussycat they saved in the science thing becomes the Lion. And it all fits and intertwines really well in the second half, and it's like, and it all timelines right, because it's really interesting, that bit where Fiyero becomes the Scarecrow at the point then that Dorothy would have walked up that thing and he's in the field. And you don't think about it until you think back and go, they're so tight. She's just sent her off the yellow brick road, and the next minute, Fiyero's becoming the Scarecrow in a field, and then he's doing that while now Elphaba's going through her trials and tribulations. She turned him into a Scarecrow to save him, but actually Dorothy would have just walked out up to him at that point, and it's crazy.
And also, while we're on about like adding things to the storyline, if we talk about adding things onto the costumes, in the first act, it was Gelda, Glenhilda or whatever. Galinda.
Yeah.
She started making up Elphaba's costume by gifting her a hat, the pointy black hat, and then it became a cape as well, and then she ended up getting her iconic look. Due to Glinda, basically.
Exactly.
So that was quite fitting to see that she
down there was still an element of
like she didn't have that appearance. She never chose any of this.
No.
She never chose to be green.
No.
She never chose to have the costume she had, and she never chose to be evil. It's just how people have given things to her. They've made her this, and she only became green just because of like a
chance encounter via mother's
and
infidelity, shall we say?
Exactly. You know? So because of that selfishness, and then because of Glinda's, I suppose, nastiness. This is that whole Heather thing of making you look nice.
It's weird because it was like part of it was Glinda being nice, but then also part of it
doing
was
it for a joke
nasty
to put it down.
But then it turned into them creating this friendship that actually is becomes stronger than ever in the second half. It's like, it's really, really strange that because they're both headstrong and they both.
And also, I think Glinda admired Elphaba's determination and strength, and the fact that she had confidence, even though she was very, very different.
Yeah, exactly.
And yet you could tell that in this version, Glinda didn't have that. That's why she was like being a bully. She was trying to get people to like her, trying to have.
Well, she thought the only way to get attention was to be that prim and proper bully, basically, above everybody, and be the top dog.
Yeah. Which is a very stereotypical like storyline, but it does work for this.
Yeah, for this, it really, it's got the power.
But I wasn't trying to like slander it in any way, saying it's this, that, and the other.
No, of course not.
It's those kind of elements that I just immediately saw.
Yeah,
this is Heather's. This is
exactly.
This is like Hairspray. I could see these elements within the first act.
But it's interesting because I know we've not talked about the songs, which we're all doing a bit, but Defying Gravity, for example. Now you've watched Book of Mormon. Before they go to Uganda, that's their Defying Gravity moment.
Yeah.
Because they do the same scene in Book of Mormon.
Yeah.
It's the same build-up. It's
that call to action.
Yeah, it's
that's
that
what
same, it's really surreal because it's another one that's been written, influenced by Wicked, and it's very funny because they've got that, then the Lion King, then other things, and it's like these are where they're getting it from, and it's just it's crazy.
I think also it's within like musical structure of how you write a musical. You'll always have certain elements like within the finale of Act 1. You need something that's going to push the narrative, push the characters on a journey that they're going to go and do this. This is the next thing, but we'll see you after a break, but we'll leave you on a high so you come back for more.
Yeah, exactly.
And Defying Gravity is very much that. So it's where the main character gets everything falls into place, and she's going to do good.
And she's basically saying, sod you lot, I'm doing what I want now because I've got all the tools I need.
Yeah.
And I'm off. Yeah. Watch me now. That's the thing. And
that's when everything starts unraveling.
And it's interesting because when I watch that performance, it's always useful to watch what Glinda does in that final performance.
Yes.
Because she's almost, as much as she's saying well, I'll come with you. And then she's like, no, we'll go our separate ways. And, when she sends her off,
Yes.
you can see that in her that's a bit like, yes, go on.
Yes.
You can see that Glinda's saying, do it, because I
Yeah.
want to see you fly.
Yes.
You can see that, because when she's down the bottom and she's jeering them on,
she was all for it, wasn't she?
She wants it to happen, but
Yeah.
it's really interesting because she nearly takes her hand and goes with her.
Yeah.
And it's the insignificant moments for me that are really important in that.
But was she doing it because she's like a double-edged sword? She's wanting to be positive, but there's a nastiness underneath that she
Yeah.
wants to get her in trouble.
Yeah, sort of. But then I think she's used it as a tool to thrust herself into the hierarchy.
Or to use it for
Like,
herself.
because she's saying, "Well, I didn't go, but I'll stand on your side." It's that like double
protect the
usage.
doors. Yeah.
It is.
It's interesting.
It is interesting in that sense because there's always evidence that people in that moment. Well, it wasn't me. I didn't go. I'm staying here, so I'll stand up for it.
Yeah. And then there's trust. I mean, will she?
Yeah, exactly.
And I think it wasn't until afterwards, when it's all sank in, where I started thinking more about this production.
Yeah.
To be honest,
it has got one of those things for me. It takes a while to unpack it and go, actually, like you say, the second half, you really start to see the twist and turn and the unravelling. It's like those chance meetings.
You get it now, don't you? In the second half, because you can relate it to the Wizard of Oz. It's exactly the kind of thing you were waiting for.
Yeah, exactly.
As well, for the references, but
Yeah.
also things start happening and moving at your level, your pace.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it's not a backstory.
No.
It's like happening.
Yeah, and it's also filling the gaps of like a story that you didn't know you needed to know the extra bits to.
Yeah.
But it adds so much to that film. It doesn't distract from it.
Yes.
It adds things, and you go,
Yeah, like the ending of it's like this girl just chucked bucket of water on her, and then you find out she was just hiding. She didn't really do
what
anything.
Do you mean she's so scared of water? Water won't kill her. Even Glinda's laughing at that, going, do
Yeah.
what you want, but she'll just go with it to go if you want to kill her. Then, but it was the perfect exit story for them both to escape.
Yeah.
And it
But even like in the Wizard of Oz, the plot point there was like when Dorothy wanted to go home, all she had to do was click her heels, and she had
never
the
did.
slippers. No, she never did.
No,
because she hadn't learnt anything.
Exactly.
It's only once she learnt something.
Yeah.
And that's why the resolve of chucking the water on there served as a purpose.
Yeah.
Just to get rid of the enemy.
Yeah.
The bad person.
Same
but
principle,
for this,
isn't
it's
it?
like, well, it's not wrapped anything in this. She's just got wet and she's hid.
Exactly. She just that's it. She's got, and I think as well, and when you actually look at it, the only bad spells she made as a wicked witch were to turn the monkeys into flying ones because of the orders of the wizard.
Yes.
It wasn't actually, she didn't actually cause any major mayhem.
No, she was just used.
And it was actually Madame Morrible that caused the weather that fell on her sister.
Yeah.
So it was not actually her that dealt with that whole thing. And the other side of it was when you look at when Alphabet, she basically saved people. So she saved her sister by making her walk, but then Madame Morrible caused the weather to go bad, and then that's so there was all promise. The same as the Tin Man, she did what she could. No, it's actually sorry, tell a lie. It was actually it was Nessa Rose that turned him into the Tin Man, wasn't it?
No, yes, it was.
Yeah.
Well, she was the one that actually Alphabet cured to walk.
Yeah. And
then she started.
She started trying to order Bock around.
Yes,
and Bock basically didn't like it. So she actually was the wicked one. She turned him into the Tin Man.
But is that not where she gets her name? Because it's a Wicked Witch of the East and a Wicked Witch of the West.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that's where the link was, because it's like,
I just remembered that. Yeah.
But I think the thing is as well, it's really interesting because actually, was Elphaba wicked? It's just that she was perceived wicked.
I think that's why it's called wicked as well. It's like, is she? Was she?
And there's the strap line is: are we born wicked, or do we have wickedness thrust upon us? That is one of those.
That's
sayings.
the overall theme and the message that you're getting.
It is,
with this production, but also at the same time, this is going off on a tangent here. Say like Myra Hindley and all those kind of things. Yeah. It's a very dark place we're going now, but you always remember the murderers.
Yeah.
Never the victims.
Yeah, exactly.
And it worries me sometimes if we can go a bit too lenient and go a bit too sympathetic towards these people, try and understand them, to then put them in a good light, when some people are probably just horrible people.
Yeah, exactly.
And sometimes you have to agree with that as well.
Whereas you could consider the likes of Glinda a smiling assassin.
Yeah.
You know, in the complete flip side, good isn't always good.
Exactly.
You know, and that's the thing. It's decisions that are made with a smile on one's face are just more powerful than somebody who's perceiving
that could
wicked,
potentially
isn't it?
be any religion.
Of course, it could.
Really,
yeah,
well,
yeah, exactly.
You know, so I think to sum up, don't trust anybody.
Yeah. I'm wondering why I'm sat here and I'm in the same room as Stephen. What can I say?
And if they've got a green face, it's probably just spinach.
Yeah. Or he's been wearing jewellery that's gone green.
That's it. Gone green. Let's just talk about the musical numbers before we move on.
I've got a few, but I'll let you talk first.
Yeah, because it probably won't take long. I really like musical numbers where I can hear them and I can remember the songs. The only music or the song out of this is Defying Gravity, because it's quite a big, powerful, uplifting kind of force of action sort of a thing. Now, the rest of the songs, I have to admit, I'm not a particular fan of Stephen Schwartz, and I'm not a particular fan, even though I did like the Baker Boy, the Baker's Wife. I'm not a particular fan of the overall female singers when they're at high pitch. I've mentioned this on 42 Balloons because Ursula was the same. Couldn't hear a bloody word of it. Couldn't hear a word of any of these singing. It's all the same. It's all mushy. Whereas 42 Balloons, that musical, I could get instantly, and I liked it. I have tried to get to grips with the soundtrack and stuff, but it still leaves me a bit. I don't know what that was. Yeah, you know what I mean.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
It's just a personal preference,
and I don't know if it's always the theatre we're in sometimes, because you know the Victoria Apollo acoustics are brilliant, and you know, personally, I prefer the production in London compared to the tour, because I do feel that there's some bits that it's not as elevated as it can be, because the production's a big production. But for me, I mean, when we talk about the songs where Defying Gravity's always up there, I mean, I'm blessed to be one of the people that saw it 2 weeks into its original run in London with Idina Menzel doing Defying Gravity, actually the original Elphaba. So, you know, for me, that was a moment that I'll never
Not that
forget.
you're bragging or anything.
Not bragging. I mean, I did book it purely by fluke, didn't know anything about a musical called Wicked, and just took my mum many, many years ago. So, you know, and then to actually not realise what I'd seen it. And Madame Morrible was Miriam Margolyes. So it was.
Yeah,
I
can see that.
Yeah, and it was amazing. Nigel Planer was the wizard.
Oh, right, okay.
And,
far out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and Fierro was
a Rocher.
No, what was he in? Fierro was Adam Garcia as well. So it was like a full-on cast. The original cast were brilliant, and that set the bar for me, because that was out of this world. But for me, some of the songs I'd pick out, I mean, I like Popular. I like Dancing Through Life. The Wizard and I have always liked. I mean, I'm Not That Girl is one of those songs that I really like, because it's more about the person that she would never be able to get to Fierro, for example. But I also like As Long As You're Mine with Elphaba and Fierro. That's just brilliant. But I also like, there's two I'll pick out now, is I'm Not That Girl, the reprise with Glinda, where she suddenly shows the cracks in her veneer, where she's showing that she's realising that she can't go out with the perfect person on the other side, and actually Glinda's not that person that should be going with Fierro. It's actually Elphaba's found Fierro, and she's letting her fly, really. But also, For Good, the final sort of ballad between Glinda and Elphaba, where they show their true friendship before they part ways and never get to see each other again because of how the production ends. So that's just me. We'll do now.
We haven't talked about the direction as such.
No.
Do you want to talk about directing?
Can do.
Overall, how do you feel about the whole direction of this and how it was choreographed?
I mean, this is a big, fast, slick production.
Yeah.
And I would say that the production we saw in Bradford was just at the same level as in London, as in everybody was on point. I don't think anybody missed a cue.
Yeah.
I don't think I noticed anything that was out of place. And it's the production that doesn't really stop. There's so many cast scene changes, costume changes. You know, I don't think there was anything that was out of place. And to live up to the film, you've got to have a certain level of direction that this is how it's done to make sure that it matches.
There was a bit at the very beginning when the bed scene came out, and I thought, "Oh dear God, where are we going here? Because isn't this supposed to be kid friendly?"
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They got around it. I mean, she did sort of like give birth to the green thing.
Yeah, yeah.
But it was one of them where
I think it's done that fast that it's like,
the thing is,
baby's coming.
Yeah, I mean, I could even see the person, like the one who was going to like the midwife.
Yeah.
I could actually see her take the baby out of her stomach rather than
exactly.
So it was the other way around.
Yeah.
If it's like a quick, oh, here it is, I've just given birth, just taken the baby.
Yeah.
And also when you've got the flying monkeys, I can say bats and flying monkeys there. That scene in the second act and stuff, you know, around the whole like defying gravity bit in the whatever. That was quite good, and the dancing segment. I think there was a huge piece.
Yeah, you mean the One Short Day in Emerald City?
I think so, yeah. So that was quite nice.
Yeah, I really like that scene because they do so much in such a short scene, really.
They do, yeah.
And even including like the weird like puppet things and stuff like that, where it's like it's just every element happens so quickly that, you know, I mean, it was quite interesting because I got to see the wings this time. And it was really funny to watch Glinda get changed because I could just see her in the corner, and she literally pulled off what she was wearing and just threw it into the wings.
Yeah.
And I was like, and then she was back on stage, and it was like a quick change that nobody was meant to see, but it was nice to see the mechanics sometimes because I like to see that side of it.
Fun when you see that.
But yeah, it was such a clever, you know, it's so quick. One Short Day is, you know, and it's got so much in it, and then all of a sudden the wizard comes out the back with the Great Wizard of Oz with the big head and everything like that, and it comes out of nowhere. And I think there's so many distractions in that scene that you think, oh God, everything's happening, but it feels like you're in Oz.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I don't even feel like there was like anything wrong with the direction or things were a bit ploddy or whatever. It delivered on all parts, and even like the small amount of choreography that they do on certain like numbers, even though they're not really doing it, moving about. I just felt the whole bringing things on and off stage as well. It all worked.
I think as well, it's little things like in the schoolroom scenes when they flip the blackboards and stuff like that.
Yeah,
it's done at such a point to give shock and to give, you know, it's not done lightly. You know, the cast react how they should. You know, it's not like they're all going, oh, it's not. They're actually shocked. You know, and I think you know that there's got, because I know in London they almost cast refresh every 6 months, so they must have a training school that are just getting people through because they have to refresh the cast. It's been running so long, you know, so there must be a book on how to direct it really now. You know, there must be some very experienced directors involved.
Moving on to our next segment, as we say, we're here for the drama. I thought the costumes were amazing. They really were. So like, it's an enhanced version of a pantomime show, but with the theme of being the Wizard of Oz.
Oh,
it's
totally
just lovely, and the amount of detail on all the fabric and the costumes and everything that was used.
And I think that's the key. It's like it's the key. It's the journey. They don't hold back on the costume, and the set and the costume blend together so well that it becomes, you feel like, you know, little tidbit for you. A drag queen called Bianca Del Rio was involved in making Elphaba's dress in the original production.
Oh, right, okay.
So the Elphaba's final dress, where it's fully black and fully, he used to work in that costume shop. So,
oh, right, okay.
so there you go. There's a little bit of a drag reference.
But the costumes themselves, they are so quirky. They are sort of period-esque, but sidestepped.
Yeah, exactly.
Like it's very sort of Edwardian, Victorian, but moved to the side. Where
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
Sort of like steampunk-esque.
Yeah, totally. It fits with all the clockwork stuff.
Yeah.
It fits with all, and also then the villagers. When you go into the villagers scene where Defying Gravity happens, it feels steeped in that world, but nothing. And this is where I've always said about costume. Nothing's perfect in this production.
Have you always said that about costumes?
Well,
Nothing's
as in
perfect?
we've seen some productions where costumes are pristine. I'll always talk about things like Moulin Rouge. I've seen that, and I wasn't impressed because it's set in the 1800s, and all their costumes are pristine. It's like they've been through they've not been through the mill. You know, the Emerald City, everything's perfectly bright and brash,
as it should. Yes,
but then when you go to the villager scene, you feel like they've been living in the costumes, and you feel like you've gone to the town, and they're all.
It's the essential of like when you go to Emerald City, it's like going to the races.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, everyone gets doled up for
and then at school you expect a level of
uniform
and a standard,
and even that had a particular style.
You know, but then when you've got villagers, and then you've got the likes of Madame Morrible and you've got Glinda looking pristine in the middle of, surrounded by villagers that are looking dowdy and still equally flamboyant, but they're actually looking really rough around the edges.
Yeah.
It makes the lead characters just pop out of the stage, and people need to learn from this, you know what I mean? And I think we've seen it in some productions where I feel like costume's an afterthought.
Yeah, there's an awful lot of people within the costume department where it says costumes made by. So shout out to everybody in the credits.
Yeah, and
I'm not going to sit here listing all of them. I was actually trying to find just the one.
And I'd also like to say that there's the link to the Wizard of Oz film and Glinda and the Wicked Witch and what they wear is very similar. So the props, as in the wand towards the end that Glinda has, matches what's in the film, you know. Yeah. So it's like the little touches like that really work, because then you feel immersed in that world.
Yeah, and all of the props and set pieces were just again of things you used to, but a little bit elevated. So the wheelchair, for example, was wooden.
Yeah, exactly.
Still had like a normal wheel.
But it was wooden.
Wooden-esque, and it fitted the period. It wasn't like when we went to see The Crucible and you had microphone stands within a 17th century set.
Totally.
Or something, you know.
And this hasn't got an era. This is its own era in a way, but it feels steeped, doesn't it?
I think they were right to keep it within that whole, like, when it was made sort of like Victorian, sort of Edwardian-esque period, because
totally
when you have that kind of a fixed period, you can go and elevate the clothes into different avenues, and make it otherworldly, and especially when it be like the Emerald City, the name itself has something sort of like royal-esque.
Well, it's like when you look at the Wizard of Oz and the robot head, and in the Victorian Edwardian world, clockwork, robots, and sort of automatons were like massive in that era, where people awed at the fact that this was a clockwork device, because how is it moving on its own? So when you brought out the Wizard of Oz head, it looks otherworldly, because it is the only thing in that world that stands out against. You know, how is it operating itself? Yes, it was all levers and pulleys in the background, but to people in that era, they would look at it in awe, which is what happened. You know, happened in the period.
Which again sort of like links into the whole TikTok thing.
Yeah, it does.
The action. Why not the action? Why not the thinking? And how that was created. It's very much old-fashioned, like a Victorian boiler house.
Yeah.
Repurposed, put on like on springs.
Definitely.
The Army of Oz. Let's just talk about the cast now. I thought Elphaba was...
Laura Pitt was amazing.
Yeah, that's it. Just steal the words out of my mouth.
Sorry. Go for it.
No. Yeah, Laura Pick and Sarah O'Connor.
Yeah,
were just fantastic.
And Carl Mann, shout out, he's a great Fiero. Yeah, as a
Megan
huge
Gardner as Nessa Rose, Jed
Yeah.
Berry as Bok, Donna Berlin as Madame Morrible. Madame Morrible.
Madame Morrible. Yeah, she was great, Madame Morrible.
And Simon Truby as the Wonderful Wizard of Oz, and Dr. Dillamond.
Dr. Dillamond.
Dillamond.
Yeah.
Was that the professor as well?
Dr. Dillamond's the goat, yeah,
The
professor,
goat.
yeah.
I thought that was the case.
Yeah.
Yeah, fantastic performances all
Yeah,
the way
exactly.
through. Very believable. Even when they were doing that, the obvious good witch, bad witch.
Yeah.
The performance and the style was again pantomime-esque,
Yeah.
and I don't mean that as like a slur.
No.
They portrayed what they needed to.
Yeah.
I don't know, they just sparkled, and for having to be the two leads basically all the way through, keep up that energy with all those song numbers, that takes some doing.
And to go from school kid up to adult throughout the whole production, this is another thing. It's like, even pantomime should take reference from this production sometimes, because it's a fantasy world. You're creating a production that is telling basically quite a linear story. It's a coming-of-age story, but to add so much colour and life to it, and to show that on their physical appearance and movements and actually put their own stamp on it, that's important, really. It felt full of personality.
And I feel sorry for Laura Pick having to have like green makeup on her face and hands and everything. But what I would say is, I'm pretty sure there was a costume where her the green makeup on her head only came down to her shoulders, and I think the costume carried the rest of the green off.
Yeah, it's Dancing Through Life scene. It's the dance scene. That's when she does that. Yeah.
Yeah, when she had a less kind of thing on. Yeah.
Yeah.
I noticed that. But well done to all the actors in that one involved. It was really good.
Yeah. It must be a joy to work on the production, to be fair. Yeah. It must be so fun to be involved in it.
Yes.
Moving on to our next segment, as we say,
What the Tech is this?
The tech then, Richard. What was there that stood out on this one that you can remember? Because I'm one of these people that I'll notice it if it's good, but if it's sort of like normal, shall we say.
Yeah.
It was normal but elevated.
Yeah.
Now, that's not going to mean anything to anybody. There was follow spots that I
Yeah.
noticed, and they had to be chained in. Cause
there's like four follow spots. It's a very tech-heavy production.
Side, yeah. But in terms of anything magical things going on,
I think
what was there that stuck out?
I think for me, the magic is the fact that it's lit so well and so beautifully that you don't really see the tech side of it on stage.
Yeah.
All the elements of creating a cyc at the back that looks like a sunset when they're stood in the next to the house that's just fell on somebody.
Yeah,
And, it's just, it looks so perfect. And then all the nighttime scenes with the rain and with the slight bit of projection that's just enough to show a bit of rain in the background, but it's enough to just.
Yeah, because I wasn't quite sure if there was physical rain going on.
No, that was just a projector with the rain effect on it. But it's enough to create that moment.
It made me wonder
and
if it was real rain.
Just to add to that bit, the only thing that annoyed me with the tour against the light, the actual production in London is, the scene where the actual bridge comes down, where it's just like the archway comes down in that rain scene. It's actually a bridge, and Fiero and Elphaba are on the bridge. It's actually a proper full-size bridge. Yeah. So when Glinda sees it, she's under the bridge looking up and catches them on the bridge. So there's a few moments that were lost in this production because they weren't actually happening, which I can understand why, because you can't really tour a bridge and all those sort of things.
Unless, they might have had more space in the Leicester Curve.
They could have, yeah.
So maybe they did it in that setting, or
they
the
might have only
theatres
done it in certain places.
Yeah.
But there was a few bits like that didn't happen. But generally, nothing that you'd have missed. But for me, it's the technical aspect of all the set pieces moving in and out flawlessly, like the things where the side panels move in and
because they were on like railings on the floor, weren't they?
Yeah, they're all on tracks on the floor, but they just move naturally. Like when everything feels like clockwork.
Yeah,
it's like
since then, we've not seen anything on track for a while. Everything's
No.
been like pushed in by a stick.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it has.
Or on a piece of string, I've noticed.
Yeah, and
So,
these were just all moved seamlessly,
on
and
an
everything
embedded
just
track
happened
on the floor.
And for me, that's where this production, you know, it's just got everything. And yeah, so sound wise, I mean, you know, all the effects that happened and needed to happen. One of the other projection uses I really like was the scene where Dorothy throws water on the Wicked Witch, and you actually see her in silhouette come into the castle.
Oh yeah,
and then throw water, and Toto's there, and then they bring the curtain back over, and it's just a Hessian curtain. It's just a bit of canvas that they bring in. And
shadows play so much to tell a story,
and you're driven so well into that world that you don't need to see Dorothy, but you know that's the scene that's happening in parallel, and it's just
that was a good scene actually.
Yeah, but it's so simple. It's it's like we saw in 49 Steps with the shadow scene. It's the same 39 steps. Yeah. It's the same thing.
You're thinking of 42 Balloons.
Yeah, it's the same, but it's the same thing. It's another shadow scene that it's a travelling bit that is just enough.
Yeah.
It's just there.
And also, I think it was a way of getting rid of the witch.
Yeah, it was.
You know.
Yeah. It was a way to do a scene change and move stuff around and get her around, because actually when they did that, she'd have gone under stage and come out of the floor.
Yeah, it might not have even been there at that point.
No, but in the tour, that's the only thing you'd seen differently, is she came out from a screen and came out from the trapdoor looking like she was coming up from the floor.
Yeah.
Whereas in the production in London, she's actually comes out right at the front of stage and they lift it up and she's there. Yeah. So it's you didn't really miss much with that, but. The other thing I will draw a reference to is Defying Gravity and her flying scene with her broom.
I thought she was actually going to be on one of them like extendable arm things that we keep seeing in these pantomimes where she comes out into the audience.
Yeah, but she is actually in a cherry picker.
Yeah,
but people talk about it like it's some fantastical technology. However, the reason I draw a reference to that is because I love the misdirect in that, where they lift up the whole below of the stage underneath her, where the cast run through underneath, to almost give you the distraction that the fact that she's actually on a cherry picker, it's to try to say, no, she's floating, and when you first see it, you go, actually, how are they doing that? You know, but and that's another thing that other people have took reference from and used it in other productions. Why we've seen pantos with cars flying through the audience and this, that, and the other. It's all come from these people who've pioneered the technology.
Yeah.
So.
And now it's time for
Rewind, Rewatch.
Which part would you rewind and watch again, Richard, even though you've watched it several times before?
I'd just say the whole lot because I've seen it 5 times already. So I think I've already seen it a few times.
Yeah.
Now, so, I'm
not quite sure if there is a particular section that I would rewind and watch again. I can't quite think. I'd definitely watch it again.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it was just that standout scene for me. What would it be? I think if I was going to pick something, it would have to be probably somewhere in Act 2 when they're relating to the film.
Yeah.
But what that would be, I don't know.
I think it's a bit like Blood Brothers. It's one of those that you can pick down and you can watch it, leave it a couple of years, watch it again. It's a similar thing to that.
I think I would see it again, but closer up than where I was.
Right, it does make a difference when you see it a few rows, like a lot closer to the production.
Yeah. Moving on to our final segment, as we say,
call this a show?
So this is a segment where we give our overall summary of the show.
I think my summary is it's a great musical. It's a full package, start to finish, and it's something that draws parallel with a very classic film, and it's very well done. And just as a side note, I'm very intrigued to see how they turn it into a movie, because I am also very intrigued how they're going to create 2 movies out of it, potentially making it a 5-hour musical, which is going to be very different to the experience that you get in a theatre.
Yes, we discussed this at the time, because this is a side review from the summary, but I would actually like to see a version without it being a musical and to see it like hard and darker and grotesque, like Return to Oz was, and
Yeah.
the musical that everyone was expecting.
Yeah.
Because I prefer it if
You
it
just
was
want
like
Return to Oz the musical, just face it, don't you?
I just want Return to Oz on 4K. That's just for me, you know.
Yeah.
In a nice steelbook. So, to sum up for myself, I would say that it was a thoroughly enjoyable production, and it paid off in the end because it started tying up all the loose ends and all the questions that had been set up in the first act, and it paid off, and I liked it. Well, for just doing what it should really do, actually. But overall, I think, like I said in the rewind rewatch, I'd have to sit further, closer to the stage to take it all in again.
Yeah, positioning matters where you sit in the audience, and it takes a couple of times to see it to actually to get into it in the same to see. I think the other thing is, like you say, a lot of people think it's all about the first act, but I actually agree with you. The second act is where it takes a diversion change, and you start seeing more depth to it than just the musical elements of referencing all the other productions. This one just goes on a different journey in the second half, and I don't think it should ever be thrown away, because I think
it goes on
like
the
that
journey that we're paying for to see.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it doesn't hold back, does it?
Yeah. Scores then, please, Richard, for Wicked the Musical. On a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being a wickedly wonderful musical in Oz, and 1 being a production in need of a tornado. What's it going to be?
I'm judging it on this performance I saw, and I'm going to give it a 9, just because of some of the elements that weren't in the main production. It'll be a 10 if it was in London, but it's a 9 if it's on tour.
Okay, so my score would be... I think I would give it a 9. I was wondering about giving it an 8. It definitely wasn't a 10, so simply because there was just certain bits that I felt... I think it's a song. I think it's the actual lyricist, like Stephen... Not Sondheim. What's the other one?
Steve Schwartz.
I think it's his lyrics and his storytelling in terms of telling the story in the songs that I just don't always like or appreciate.
To, yeah.
Yeah. Whereas if it was like maybe if Sondheim had done it, I might have liked the songs, and there would have been more catchier that I quite like.
Yeah.
And I think obviously because of the whole the backstory of Elphaba, going through the whole again the victim narrative of being picked on and blah blah blah. That's quite the easy option to go by.
Yeah.
You know, but I suppose if they're following the book, it is what it is. So, what sound effect will you be choosing from the following? A complete train wreck, tumbleweed, an audible shrug of the shoulders, a slow clap, a pleasant applause, or a standing ovation. What will it be?
Well, it can only be a standing ovation. Just let's not beat around a bit.
And it's a standing ovation from me as well. So there we are. That's our discussion of Wicked. We hope you found it insightful.
If not, entertaining.
Stay tuned as we bring you more of our thoughts
and opinions
on many theatrical delights in future episodes.
Oh,
Yeah.
If you'd like to get in touch, email us at upstagedownsstagepod@gmail.com. You can always join in the chat to share with us your views of a production.
Also, make sure to follow, share, like and subscribe to all our channels so you get every episode the second it's released. And we hope you join us again for another instalment of
Upstage Downstage.
Wicked is a musical with music and lyrics by Steve... What are you laughing for?
Wicked's a musical with music and it's just the way it's fine. It's fine. Just carry on.
So, it would have been spot on had you have not giggled all the way through it. Honestly, I don't know why you do this. You always giggle over everything I say.
We follow their friendship until love... No, why did that's because I can't see Cher.
Who's Cher?
Cher. Oh,
Oh,
I'm great.
I'm great. What's Cher got to do with it?
We follow their friendship until a shared love interest comes between them.
Oh.
We follow their friendship until a shared love interest comes between them. Throwing the wonderful did I say that really weird?
Yeah.
I did. We follow
Between them.
Yeah. Between them. We follow their friendship until a shared love interest becomes between them.
Are you receiving me? No, I'm recording. So am I
Are you
receiving?
recording me?
Am I recording me?
Hello.
So let's set the scene for Wicked the musical
What do you want me to set the scene?
on a scale of 1 to 3, with 3 being a fabulous little musical. No. Yes, you set the scene.
Summarising.
We are summarising.
Well, not smiting. We're summarising.
Summarising.
Summer falling.
Yeah. I was trying to think of the opposite of rising. Deflating.
De-rising.
Summarising. Summer deflating.
And summer de middle.